Yes, absolutely. We're gonna talk about leftovers later on, by the way.
We need to.
Can I just say this song reminds me of my daughter? It's her favorite song.
Is it really? What is
From
this
Meghan
song?
Trainor.
Listen, the holiday season is upon us. On the Saturday after Thanksgiving, and Pete is back.
He's back.
Well, I do work on the weekends. Saturday and Sunday. It's a really difficult work week. Saturday and Sunday.
We got holiday lights and the trees out back in front
true.
of Fox Square, and we got Pete back in the chair.
It's great to have you guys here.
It's great. But we all have our families with us.
It's true.
This weekend in New York.
Lots of kids, lots of festivity is the way it should be. But there's a lot of, well, kids, you might say, but a lot of people in a certain city looking for guidance. What might happen next? Rick, you've spent a lot of time.
Well, there's a lot of
there,
news.
too.
Look, the big news is still the caravan and the situation on the border. The president clearly making that a priority. But we're hearing also what's changed in this is the mayor of Tijuana, Juan Manuel Gastelum. And what changed and what surprised so many in this story is that he has had, as so many of the small towns in cities throughout Mexico, when I was with him for 13 days, trying to deal with this large group of 4,000 or 5,000 migrants moving across. Here is a tweet from the mayor, Mayor Gastelum, quote, excuse me, and he says, "We don't have sufficient and necessary infrastructure to adequately attend to these people to give them a decent space." Now, let me try and put that in context. In all of the small towns, we went from Chiapas to Oaxaca all the way across. This is such a large group. The populations of those little towns was only 1,000, 1,500. This is larger than the whole city. They don't have the resources. Now, this group has gotten to the border on Tijuana, and that is why the mayor is not only putting that quote out, but he's asking for the United Nations Human Rights Commission to give them support, give them money. He says, ultimately, Mayor Gastelum, "I will not spend Tijuana citizens' tax dollars for this crisis. It's arrived at my border." And, of course, President Trump also weighing in for that, tweeting this yesterday, calling for bipartisan support on the border, saying Republicans and Democrats must come together, finally, with a major border security package, which will include funding for the wall. After 40 years of talk, it is finally time for action. Fix the border for once and for all now.
Will they fix it, Rachel?
Well, it's interesting. On December 7th, there is a partial spending bill that's going to be coming up. And so the president, I think, is bringing a lot of attention to it. He hasn't. This is not a political stunt for him. This is what he ran on. But what's interesting and what will be fascinating to see if the media picks up on this. You know, they did not report on the protests in Tijuana and in many of these places where the caravan has come, where people from those Mexican towns, Mexican citizens are going, hey, we don't like this. Our crime is increasing. Our resources are getting strained. A lot of the same things we say on this side of the border, but the media has not been reporting it. This is now getting to a point or a threshold where they're going to have to start reporting this.
They really are. And you know what? Good on the Mexican or on the Tijuana mayor for saying this. It's the type of things Angela Merkel wouldn't say for a long time.
Right.
Listen, she covered it up, the refugee crisis in her own country. The mayor of Tijuana saying, I can't handle this. I'm calling on the president of Mexico to do something about it. He's not doing anything about it. And I think citizens here look at this and say, what will our Congress ever do, if anything? And there's a lot of frustration, Rachel, to your point. Republicans have had control for 2 years. This president is serious about this issue. Will they spend the time in this lame duck session to actually try to address it?
I want to clarify. Some of the media has covered it, just not a lot. And certainly it goes against the narrative that has been out there. So it's been very muted. Back to your question about the funding. Look, I think he's warning. He's sending out warning signals. I could shut down the government come December 7th. The question will be who will get the blame, because there will be Republicans, by the way, especially on the Senate side, who might not want to sign that bill to include border wall funding. So will the president get the blame, or will all this attention on the border and seeing it happening on the Mexican side and the American side make people go, you know what? This is a president who's finally trying to do something that everybody else said they were going to do and never did.
Exactly. And, it's a great point. The media has reported on it, just not to the extent that it is put in pure context. The fact that we had a year ago, a caravan came.
Yeah.
It proved the problem that we've got, a solution that was needed. The president has stayed on top of finding that solution. Now it has come to a head, and it is unavoidable any way you cut it. Any way you come from this perspective, you're going to have to deal with it.
It's a real problem. So DeRoy Murdoch, he's a Fox News contributor. He was on this channel yesterday, had this to say about a potential for a government shutdown. Listen.
One is he could shut down the government. Second thing, I think once these guys come back from Thanksgiving, he should keep the 115th Congress up on Capitol Hill until January 3rd when the Democrats come in, and they should vote, and litter his desk with legislation on immigration and other things. And the other message that has to go out to all these people who want to rush across the border is, if you want to come to America, do what my mother and father did. When they left Costa Rica, they went to the U.S. Embassy and they filled out visa applications. Fill out the paperwork. That's not too much to ask. If you want to come to America, ring the front doorbell. Don't run in and break in through the bathroom window, which is the approach these people are taking now.
It's a great point. And, we're going to hear more about comprehensive immigration reform, especially with Democrats in charge.
Yes.
If you want to talk about that, if you're going to be comprehensive, it better include a wall. And I feel like supporters of this president have heard time and time again, it's about time that the showdown and the shutdown actually happen, that Republicans actually stand up for what they say they're going to believe. Because I'm fearful that now that they're in a lame duck session, they'll yap about it a lot, and then they won't do it. And then when Democrats take charge, they'll say, well, we wanted a wall. Well, you had your chance.
Right.
Why didn't you do anything? This is an important point to point out to Republicans.
And it's an important point that DeRoy brings up about immigrants. So it is often immigrants and the children of immigrants who are most upset about this, because they understand that doing it the right way is, by the way, why a lot of them left their own countries. They want rule and law and order.
That's a great point.
And so
I think you guys have lost your minds. You're completely out of sync with people like Murphy Brown, the great 80s sitcom that has returned to television.
It's returned?
It has.
It's back.
Murphy Brown is back. She plays her same role, and she has a morning show instead of the investigative show she had in the 80s and 90s. Here you go. Here you go. Now, this is Hollywood clearly taking on
But this
bias.
played after This is on Thanksgiving evening. This is Murphy Brown. Watch.
We received a call from a neighbor here about a taco truck parked in a residential area. Noticed the taillights cracked, ran the plates. Seems the truck belongs to a Carlos and Maria Gonzalez. Undocumented immigrants, outstanding removal order.
You guys cannot barge in here like this. I know you're used to dealing with people who are scared and vulnerable, but if you don't get out of this truck, I will spatchcock you.
What did they do except give up everything so I could grow up in a country that we thought was the most compassionate place in the world? Sorry, kid. We're just following government orders.
So as if that isn't enough, she was going to take a spatula to them. She's a morning show host, as you said, Griff. So she went on to say on her morning show, on a fictional morning show, how she responded to it. Watch.
Actually, I'm going to go off script for a minute. I normally don't tell personal stories on the air, but something happened yesterday. I can't imagine what it's like for parents to be separated from their child, but I watched it happen to friends of mine. Watching what I did yesterday might have given me a real reason to lose faith in my country. But I refuse to believe that we've become so jaded that we feel nothing when we see these human beings experiencing such heartache. There has to be a way to fix this. We can do better. We will do better.
So you're watching, you're with your family, it's Thanksgiving, and you turn that on and you see basically an anti-law and order, anti-law enforcement advertisement on CBS, this idea that these ICE officers doing their jobs are the criminals, are the terrible Americans for enforcing the law. It is the manifestation of our current debate played out in Hollywood.
I was just disappointed Dan Quayle wasn't in the episode.
Yeah, that's right. They had that famous role back then. But listen, I mean, this is Hollywood's narrative on this. If you don't feel something for these, and the assumption is that the other side doesn't have compassion for those who are trying to come. It's absolutely false. We all understand why they want to come across the border. We all understand why they want to take the risk. The question is do we as a country want to encourage that? Because it creates a lot of problems, like the ones that you're seeing in Tijuana, like the ones we're seeing on this side of the border. But that's the narrative. It's you must not have a heart. If you're for the wall, if you're for law and order, if you're for securing the border, you must be a heartless person.
You just hate brown people.
Right.
Well, really, that's what
there's
say.
a racist component, yes.
Correct.
Well, in fairness to Hollywood, they are often the forum that challenges our social norms. But in this case, this episode takes two leaves of absence, which is one, the president has changed his family separation policy. So right now, that is not in place that would be applicable that she's talking about. And two, it is a debate now about the rule of law. It isn't an issue that the taco truck, I get it, it's very dramatic, and the young man, and you can't but help watch that and feel some compassion for it, but she's playing down the rule of law aspect of this.
Course.
So we want to know what you think. Email us at friends@foxnews.com and let us know.
And we're going to talk about Angela Merkel later in the program. They've seen the issues with unfettered illegal immigration and refugees. But as Griff said, email us, friends@foxnews.com.
All right, and we're going to turn now to your headlines. And we begin with a Fox News alert. An American hero is killed in action. The military confirming the death of a U.S. service member in Afghanistan overnight. Further details surrounding the incident are not yet available. This is the 9th American killed in action in Afghanistan this year. Earlier this month, Major Brent Taylor was killed in an insider attack in Kabul. Former CIA and NSA Director Michael Hayden is in the hospital after suffering a stroke. Hayden is receiving expert medical care, according to a statement released by his family. The retired four-star Air Force general led the NSA for President Bill Clinton and George W. Bush. He then led the CIA until his retirement in 2009. And those are your headlines.
We certainly wish them the best.
Absolutely.
All right. President Trump pushing for bipartisan support on major criminal justice reform. Why our next guest says it's important to pass it before Democrats take over the House.
We'll see. And Georgia Democrats calling for another investigation against another one. Governor-elect Brian Kemp, this time for a crime of fashion, they say.
I think I see that.
Break. President Trump urging the Senate to come together to pass a major prison reform bill, tweeting this, and I quote, "Really good criminal justice reform has a true shot at major bipartisan support. Mitch McConnell and Chuck Schumer have a real chance to do something so badly needed in our country. Already passed with a big vote in the House, would be a major victory for all." So can Democrats and Republicans actually get this done? We're going to ask Niger Innis of the Congress for Racial Equality. Niger, thanks for being here this morning. So a big priority of this White House, it has not passed the Senate. Will it pass, and what are the impediments at this point?
Well, the impediments are you've got a group of conservatives within the Republican caucus led by, I would say, the variety.
Tom Cotton is one of them.
Ted Cruz, Tom Cotton is one of them as well. And they have serious objections to the Senate bill. But pragmatically speaking, they think it's too liberal, if you will. It's a little bit too much ACLU that is a part of the coalition pushing for criminal justice reform. But pragmatically speaking, I mean, look, I'm a law and order Republican too. But pragmatically speaking, the House version that passed is a lot more conservative. It's a lot more to their liking. The Senate bill is a little, veers a little bit more to the left.
Yep.
But the practicality is, if they don't pass criminal justice reform now and have some type of compromise bill that's something in between the House version and the Senate bill, then you're going to have a situation where instead of this conservative criminal justice reform bill that was passed by the House, you're now going to have to negotiate with Nancy Pelosi, the likes of Maxine Waters, all inspired and having fires lit to their butt by folk like Alexandria Castro-Cortez.
So you're saying you got your best chance in conference where the two bills meet with a more conservative House bill. Let's talk a bit about the Senate bill, though. Here, the First Step Act is what it's called. Here's what it would do: eliminate so-called stacking regulation. Judges can reduce mandatory minimums for nonviolent drug offenders, change the 3 strikes you're out penalty from life in prison to 25 years. So for conservatives in the Senate, what is it about the Senate bill that is not to their liking?
Well, Cotton and Mike Lee, Senator Mike Lee out of Utah, had a very interesting, very vigorous exchange. You could call it a Twitter battle, if you will, that National Review covered. And Tom Cotton's concerns are that, when they label folk non-violent offenders, it includes individuals, according to Cotton, that actually committed acts of violence against police officers, including using violent weapons. There are a variety of concerns, but what I say to Senator Cotton, to Senator Cruz, that have, these are good men, principled men that have legitimate concerns. Let Mitch McConnell bring it to the floor. Let's have a vigorous debate about it. If Cotton sees something wrong with the Senate version, ask for some amendments, put some amendments on there, but now is the time to get this done because, God forbid, the Senate has to negotiate with the House. I mean, right now, you've got a situation where if the Senate passes something, you can have a reasonably conservative criminal justice reform bill. If the far left-wing House comes in January, then you're talking about taking a Senate
far left House
measure.
wants open borders and all that other, I mean, not that that's related, but their mindset is totally different. So this all comes down to Mitch McConnell, though, right? I mean, is Mitch McConnell going to bring this forward?
I hope so. You have the most extraordinary coalition of conservatives and liberals. You've got liberal groups like the ACLU that are in favor of it, but you also have the Fraternal Order of Police, the largest police union in the country. You've got Christian conservatives. This is an extraordinary coalition. You've had Christian conservatives that are promoting criminal justice reform, along with small government libertarians that are promoting this. So you haven't had this type of coalition, bipartisan, multi-ideological, since the civil rights movement of the 1960s. So I think with that kind of...
9 Democrats with the Problem Solvers Caucus, as they call themselves, say they're only supporting a candidate who agrees to overhaul the House rules. Pelosi needs a simple majority for Wednesday's closed-door vote to become the party's speaker. And as Senate Republicans prepare to push for President Trump's judicial nominations, emphasis on retiring, Senator Jeff Flake may get in the way one last time. He's trying to force a Senate vote on a bill protecting the Mueller investigation before he leaves, and has promised to block judicial nominations until the bill goes to a vote. Strong conservative take. Flake is likely to block needed votes for critical nominees like North Carolina's Thomas Farr. Griff, down to you.
Thank you. All right, tensions rising at the border as thousands of migrants begin to arrive on our doorsteps.
The media downplaying Trump's concerns as being overblown, but what are the real-life consequences of illegal immigration?
Our next guest's son, Drew Rosenberg, was killed by an illegal immigrant back in 2010 and has some strong words for those who want open borders.
John Rosenberg is the president of Advocates for Victims of Illegal Alien Crime, and he joins us now. Welcome, Dan.
Hi, Rachel. Hi, Griff. How you doing?
We're good. We're better than you, Don, because you've suffered what is such a big story right now, and you had to spend Thanksgiving without your son, and I know that must have been tremendously difficult. But as this debate rages across the country, what would you like to say? What would you like the country to know both about this debate we're having and your son, Drew?
Well, the most important thing is that we are a welcoming country, and people should be able to come here. They have to come here legally. They have to be vetted. They can't be released into the country until all of that happens, because most of them, particularly when they come in on asylum, they disappear. Some may show up for their hearings, but when they get their deportation order, they don't leave. Right now, there's almost 250,000 illegal aliens in federal prisons and state and local prisons and jails. And they've committed probably close to 2 million crimes. So when you hear people talking about, oh, they commit less crimes than the native-born, A, that's not true, but B, I really don't care, because none of the crimes that they've committed should have happened. My son should be alive. And, he was in really the prime of his life. He was his second year of law school and had everything to live for. And, when I hear these advocates talking about, separating kids from their parents, well, it's temporary. We just had our 8th Thanksgiving without my son. His 8th anniversary was November 16th. So I don't want to hear anybody talking about they're temporarily separated. I have no tears for them whatsoever.
So a lot of Democrats, and especially the media as well, on many other networks, are saying that that the border caravan doesn't really pose a threat, that this is just political theater. What do you say to that?
Well, look, there's a lot of arguments as to how many people are there. We know there are thousands, and we know there are thousands more coming. And the question I would ask is, how many that are there are you willing to accept in the country that are criminals? And the answer should be 0, or at least make every attempt to screen them. So to say that they're not a threat is absurd. And ironically, one of the reasons they haven't just marched across is because there's triple fencing down there. Right. So, when you talk about a wall, there's a reason. Otherwise, they would be in, and who knows what they're going to do. At least we're prepared for them, and we'll see what happens.
And of those who are going through the asylum process, probably only they say about 20% actually have passed whatever the criteria is for seeking asylum, correct?
Yeah. What most people don't realize is about 80% of those people will be given credible fear, which would allow them to come into the country. And because of the, catch and release, they'd be released into the interior of the country. 53% of that group will never even file for asylum. So right off the bat, more than half will just disappear. And then of the remainder, although they will, most of them won't get asylum, they'll never leave.
All right, Don.
So you're.
Thank you very much for joining us, and it's important we also remember your son, Drew, such a great young man with so much promise, and we thank you for taking time to come on and share your story with us.
Thank you, Don.
Great, thank you. Thank you both. I appreciate it.
Of course. All right, German Chancellor Angela Merkel taking on nationalism in a veiled swipe at President Trump. Does she really believe fighting for your country is not patriotic?
And the power of Pelosi, putting Democrats in a real leadership dilemma. Will Nancy get the help she needs to become?
6th Avenue is very nice this time of year.
Oh, I love when they light up those trees. It's so pretty.
If you haven't been to Fox Square, you should come on out this Christmas season. It's a neat place to be. Yeah. But if you're, Germany has famous Christmas markets, don't they?
Yes,
it's like
they
a really famous German thing, right?
Yes.
And it's part of what makes that country special. Their chancellor, who's outgoing, right? She's on her
Angela Merkel
on her way out. She had something to say about nationalism in a not even a veiled swipe, a clear swipe of this president. This is what Angela Merkel had to say on Wednesday. Listen to her. She said, "In this day, nation states should today, I say, be ready to give up sovereignty, but in an orderly procedure, of course. Either you are one of those who believe they can solve everything on their own and only have to think about themselves. That is nationalism in its purest form. This is not patriotism." Griff, I'll give it to both of you, Griff and Rachel. The ordered end of sovereignty sounds like the perfect globalist bureaucratic calculation there. Give up your sovereignty, but we'll do it in an ordered way.
Well, and by the way, this is why she's so unpopular in her own country. You know, it reminded me of something that President Donald Trump said. You know, he has lots of famous lines, as you all know, but there's one that he said that really grabbed me as an American. He said, "I'm the president of Pittsburgh, not Paris."
Yeah.
And it really sort of encapsulated, I think, the way most Americans feel. They really want an American president. They're not interested in a global president like President Obama, I think, attempted to be.
Well, I believe we've got a flashback shot from President Trump defending sort of this viewpoint here. Take a listen to this, and then I'll talk about it on the back end.
I am very proud of our country. We cannot continue to allow what's happened to our country to continue to happen. We can't let it happen. So I'm proud. I'm proud of our country. And I am a nationalist. It's a word that hasn't been used too much. Some people use it, but I'm very proud. I think it should be brought back. I'm somebody that wants to help other countries of the world, but I also have to take care. We have to take care of our country.
So he's saying, in a world gone global, if you believe that your country is good and right and true and free, then the nation, defending your nation is the new patriotism.
Right.
Really, in a world gone global, if you love your country, nationalism is patriotism. And that's the exact opposite of what Angela Merkel
And he encouraged, Donald Trump has encouraged other countries. He's saying, look, I'm going to take care of my country. I'm going to put my country first. You should put your country first. And the citizens of those countries have heard our president say that. And I've talked to those people in many of those countries, and they go, yeah, I wish my president or my prime minister or whoever is in charge would put us first.
And you have to step back just a bit and realize he is a businessman that got into politics because he felt a calling to lead the nation. And so, you know, while the left has associated a really racist, you know, tie to the nationalism title, it was in so many of these trade deals when he started to fight back against China, started to fight back with people in all of these pacts, he said, I'm going to do what's best for me. And you know what? Those countries are going to do the best thing for them.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't they? They would be stupid not to. So it was bore out of an economic position to give us a better strengthening. If you think of your country's citizens as your own children, you want to work as hard as you can to give them the best future they've got. And that's really the comparison that he's making with regards to American citizens in a global economy.
It's a great point. We're a big American family. By the way, later in the program, we might play a video. I bought a commercial-sized flagpole for
Of course he did. Of course.
Way too big for my property. With a big flag. And
We're waiting for the homeowner association to weigh in on this.
Thankfully, no homeowners association. But maybe we'll play that video of my kids pledging allegiance to the flag. They're proud little patriots.
I can't wait to see that. All right, we're going to get to some headlines first. Democratic Socialist Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, always in the news, and weighing in on the federal government's new report on climate change. The New York Congresswoman-elect tweeting in part, quote, "People are going to die if we don't start addressing climate change ASAP." The report warns of devastating health and economic costs to the U.S. in the coming years. The left wants the feds to investigate a breach in the Peach State. The Democratic Party of Georgia is mocking Governor-elect Brian Kemp's fashion sense. The party claiming to launch various investigations into Kemp's wardrobe, tweeting, quote, "Actual evidence presented shows a major fashion breach." The apparent joke seems to be a dig at Kemp for keeping his suit jacket buttoned while sitting down.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, it is a fashion offense, I guess. Real and fake Christmas tree sellers are pining for your purchase. They're creating new online ads to convince you that their trees are greener and greater than the others.
Smells like Christmas. That can't be manufactured.
So get the family together and make a memory that'll last a lifetime.
It's Christmas. Keep it real.
Real Christmas trees in the Duffy house, as you can imagine, with a lumberjack as the dad. So what kind of Christmas tree do you prefer? Let us know at friends@foxnews.com. Are you doing the fake ones or are you doing real ones? I grew up with those silver trees. Do you remember those in the 70s?
Oh, yeah.
I was a military brat, so we couldn't, that's what you had to do.
True. You can ship it and take it anywhere.
Well, one thing's for sure is it's time to put your tree up because the weather has let us know it is the holiday season. Rick?
Was it chilly for you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's been very cold.
It was good.
I blame you.
Last weekend, you were like, so it sounds like it'll be normal for Thanksgiving Day.
I did say that, didn't I?
If Thanksgiving Day were like on January 20th.
That's right.
Or in Wisconsin.
or in Wisconsin. Yeah, exactly. Really cold, but the cold is for the most part gone. Still chilly across the east. Even down across Atlanta, you're stuck in that wedge right there, and you've got some chilly air. A lot of rain. So getting to Thanksgiving was pretty easy on Wednesday. Getting away from mom or grandma, if that's what you're trying to do now, not going to be as easy. Big storm here across the east. Won't have that much rain across parts of Florida, but we have this icing going on right here across parts of the Central Appalachians. Watch if you're driving there. We're going to see that later on today across I-80, across parts of Pennsylvania. But a lot of rain along with this. And then a new storm that's across parts of the northern Rockies is going to bring some big snow across parts of the Central Plains tomorrow. Maybe up to about a foot across parts of Iowa and northern Illinois, maybe Chicago. More rain eventually coming into the West Coast as well. Few travel delays today across parts of the South with that storm. And then temperature-wise, things are going to be getting a little bit better. Don't know what that is. That didn't work.
That didn't work. But why would anyone be trying to get away from mom or grandma, Rick?
Don't ask me that. I'm just saying if that was the case. By the way, my parents are staying with me right now, so that is not a referendum on my parents.
I thought so. I wanted to give you a chance to correct that.
Yeah, thank you.
You got it.
Thank you, Rick.
Thanks, Rick.
Thanks, Rick. Appreciate it.
All right.
So you've got some cool stuff going on.
I do. So do you on Fox Nation. And why don't we just show the clip, and then I'll talk about it on the other end, because this is my new show on Fox Nation. I was an at-home mom for 14 years before I started working. And I will tell you that I think it's helped me because you feel guilty about things when you're at home as well. And so there is no perfect solution. There are things that you're giving to your kids by them watching you working. And there's things that women who are at home are doing and are doing an amazing job. And so I think that it's just a female. I thought it was a Catholic condition. It seems like it's more of a female.
Those are tough questions.
Listen, this has been the best thing I think I've ever done at Fox. It is so fun. I'm getting groups of women together. We started off with Fox Moms, so we had Ainsley and Janice Dean and Lauren Simone and Simonetti and and Melissa Francis, of course. So all moms, we got together, we went to a hotel, and we just talked about everything under the sun: family, our husbands, our kids, current events, the political environment in the country today, and just put it all out there and recorded it all. Now we're going to go all across the country.
Good.
So we're going to do it in Texas and Arizona and in the Midwest. It's
so
just
no
great.
Commercial breaks. Talk about whatever you want.
Yes.
And people can subscribe and watch kind of a behind-the-scenes conversation.
Right. It's like getting your girlfriends together and having a conversation.
But they're moms.
They're all moms. They're all moms.
Moms rule the world.
They probably have the same problems and frustrations that you have. So go to Fox Nation, foxnation.com. A couple more days, you can become a founding member of this new streaming service, and you get cool shows like that. And you can pick whatever you want. You can watch the moms, you can watch the documentaries, you can watch the live shows. It's a cool new feature on the Fox.
It's awesome.
Family. Well done, Rachel.
Thank you.
I think I'm going to watch Moms.
I'm going to
Can dads watch Moms?
Dads can watch moms.
Okay, I think I will. And the power of Pelosi, if there is such a thing, putting Democrats in a real leadership dilemma. Will Nancy's persuasion help get her the votes she needs to become the